Hey, Coach has got a fantastic guest tonight. Jamie Bolton has been one of our most popular guests on the channel. He's got some of the most viewed videos on the channel, and he is the head football coach at Cannon School, Cabarrus Warriors. And Jamie is going to share a curl concept with us that he is one of his favorite concepts. And Jamie always does a great job. So, buddy, thank you for being on here, and I can't wait to steal your ideas, man.
I hear you. I appreciate you having me on again. It's always fun talking to you about anything. So yeah, we'll get right into it. Basically, the curl concept that we like to run is primarily out of a 3x1 set. Pretty simple. A couple of adjustments we like to do to it, and it's been one of our best intermediate concepts the past year. I've only ran it last year, so it was a really good one for us. So I can share my screen whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Okay. All right, so our curl concept, a couple of things we like to think about is we want to attack zone coverage, and we really want to horizontally stretch the linebackers. We would call like a skiff player, the seam curl flat player above the hard deck. So above the hard deck for us means any space above 7 to 10 yards, depending on our speed at receiver. So our generally our hard deck is where the back judge is, or the umpire, excuse me, is near the linebacker. So we want to kind of work that area, provide a stretch on the linebackers, and it's really good against zone coverage. If we get man or a cloud corner, cover two, something like that, we usually like to check smash. It's not really great to like a hard cover two, but we do have some things that within the concept that we can go to mitigate some of those bad play calls, if you will. So we'll kind of get into the first look at it here. So just diagram. We're going to run this primarily out of a 3x1 set, and I guess we'll just start talking about the splits. We call these minus splits. So minus splits for us means that we're going to split the difference. So the Y is usually our kind of our number one slot guy to the right in a trips right set. He's going to be number two in most of our trip concepts, our trip sets. And so he's going to split the difference between the hash and the end man on the line of scrimmage. And so that's kind of where we tell him we're on the left hash here. So usually he's somewhere on that upright. If we were in the middle of the field, he's still going to split the difference between the numbers and the end man on line of scrimmage. But we don't really get a whole lot of middle field sets. So this is kind of where we line up. The Z minus splits for him is going to be between the numbers and the hash. This will change year to year for us, depending on the strength of our quarterback's arm. With a lot of these concepts, whenever we line up in minus splits, we can protect that look with other plays or other concepts that we run. So we can run a myriad of other concepts out of this. For instance, if we want to run a smash concept, we would run it out of the same look. So if the corner wanted to really squat down, and then they want to run like a cover two look, then we could really use the same split and then run, instead of this curl concept, this is just an example, we would run like smash, and that would be the only change. And so it protects the look depending on what we get, and we'll obviously game plan those things as we go. Last year we saw zero cloud corner and zero cover two, so we didn't see any of it. So we really didn't have to run our smash concept, where I'd show you. But basically the splits are minus splits. If we're in a trip set, the H is going to kind of come over, and he is then going to split the difference between the Y and the end man on line of scrimmage. So it kind of gives us this funky looking split here, but it works out pretty well because it's going to provide a really, really good horizontal stretch on what we call the skiff player. And so he's going to have to kind of cover a lot of ground, and it shortens this throw up for the quarterback. And we'll kind of get to some looks here, the way that kind of works out. But the progression for this, we work a rhythm read rush progression. So the primary, or the first read in this progression, is going to be what we call a lock seam. So the lock seam is going to be run by the H. That means that he is not going to bend this. Even if he is capped, he may snap it off, but generally we want to hit that thing on rhythm. By rhythm, I mean, I talked about this in the last video too, but rhythm means we're going to throw this on the back the back step of the quarterback drop. And that can depend on the speed of the receiver and the rhythm route. So if a really slow guy is running this, say from a tight end set, or if he's a wing set, the drop can vary. So he may take a punch three. That's going to be a punch with your left foot, drive with your right, cross with your left, set with your right, and then throw it on rhythm. If he's in a trip set, it might come out a lot quicker, or even if he's a tight end trip set, it's going to come out a lot quicker. So he may just do a quick three where he doesn't really cross over. And I think in one, he just does a punch one step and then hits him on stride. So we give the quarterback those tools. He can use that based on the speed of the receiver, or if that receiver is going to get collision. We'll look at some examples of that and how he's kind of changing that up based on his rhythm route. Then the next read in the progression, this is the primary progression that we'll see against zone, is the burst curl. And that thing, we really want to try to push that to 12. And a lot of the video, we really kind of only get about 10 yards. But the guy really does, RZ runs a really, really good curl. And we've hit that a bunch of times this year. Gets man covers too. So he does a really good job. He's a possession receiver that runs a really good route. And so he's going to push in here, trying to close this window down. And then we're just going to really basically read just like anything else. It's seam, and then we're going to reset our feet. So it's a three-step drop primarily, hitch up, read the corner, and then rush the best flat route. A lot of times our T really wouldn't get out if we get a blitz and this protection. This is a combo protection we like to run to this. Protection means that we're going to run a man side to the concept. So these guys are man on 1 and 2. And the backside, the center is going to slide back to A, to B, to C to pick up the third rusher that comes this way. If the T crosses face here, he has got the third rusher to his side. So if the Mike were to blitz, he stays in. If he doesn't, then he gets into a shoot route. So really, it's a really good answer to what we run stick. And that was the last video we did out of the same basic look with these minus splits. Is if they start to really press number 2 where they won't allow you to get the stick in there, then we like to run this as an intermediate answer to those defenses that want to do that. The T then kind of is on the shoot. So they really got to have a lot of flat players to push. So if the Mike can push all the way over, then they got us. We didn't hit the T once this year in that concept. So, but we did hit the other routes. So I'll give you some examples. And coach, stop me if I missed something. The backside, we usually like to tag the X based on our game plan for that week. And we can tag. We've tagged. The only thing we've tagged the X is an X post. So he has as a primary install, day 1 install. He's running a 9-step like home run post on the backside. And we like to look. I'm basically looking during the game at the front side of the concept, and we'll have another coach look at the backside to see, is this safety poaching? Is he kind of getting down in here, and how that corner's playing? And we've already game planned that corner on how he plays certain routes. So we'll see an example of how our game plan worked against High Point Christian in the conference championship. That really we hit the X post, and it was a big play for us off of this concept. So one of our best concepts. We'll get into some video, and we'll get to it. Here's a really, really bad view, but they didn't have a press box. What I want you to pay attention to, and this is me going back to the drops of the quarterback. So we're a tight end trip set. I know it's hard to see, but we have our Z receiver. Remember, he's splitting the difference in the numbers in the hash. Our Y receiver is going to be splitting the difference in the Z and the MN line of scrimmage. We do have a tight end. So this is a tight end trip set. And what I want you to pay attention to, we're going to hit the rhythm route here in the middle of the field. But I want you to watch the quarterback's footwork and what we're talking about throwing on rhythm. Timing is everything in our offense, especially in this intermediate game, because if you think about when routes come open, rhythm routes primarily come open in intermediate game around that 1.8 seconds, 1.6 to 1.8, depending on the route. This route, depending on who's running it, is 1.8 to 1.6. When you hitch up, you're looking at a 2.4 second throw. So that's how we kind of teach the quarterback to kind of time it up. So let's see here. We're going to catch. That's a step in the timeline. That's 0.2 of a second. Then we're going to punch with our left foot slightly. So he's going to catch, punch with our left, drive with our right, and then he's going to cross. It's going to be a really quick cross here. He doesn't quite get it over the top, and then we're throwing on our back foot right now. And so we complete that for a 25-yard gain, I believe, early in that game. So I know it's a really bad, looking at the tight end, you can kind of see the tight end release here. And then what we're telling the tight end or that H receiver, once he clears this linebacker depth, he's going to get his head around immediately, because that's when we're expecting that ball to come out. So he's in a tight end stance. He gets a pretty good release here outside. He's going to start peaking once he clears these linebackers, and our quarterback is ready to throw now. That's a really good job by our quarterback, Tyler. He's a freshman this year, and you can see that he's very coachable, because we are teaching these drops with each one of our concepts. So this lock seam, he's going to catch, punch, drive, cross, set, and now he's ready to throw on rhythm and bang it in there. So that's just him going through the progression. So even though it is a curl concept, we have a rhythm route, a read route with the curl, and then we're going to rush the flat. And so that's a pretty good play there. All right, so here it is. This is actually the first game of the season, us running it. What we were seeing in this game is we were trying to run stick against North Raleigh here. And what they started doing was they started playing over number 2 really, really tight. And so they were basically just playing him in the flat and try to collision him with that skid player. So he's going to collision and then just kind of bust to the flat. We're getting a cover 4 look. They're playing pretty tight here. So they're kind of right at the hard deck. So we think that we can attack vertical space with some of our faster players. We're in a tight end set here. And so we're kind of looking at this space thinking, all right, well, they're kind of give us, some middle of the field potentially. And so, I think this is the third quarter here, and it's third down, and we're really kind of setting this thing up the whole time. But we do a pretty good job here of going through our progression. And there's a couple details here. And so you can see how the quarterback will change his drop from what you saw against the Covenant Day clip before. He's not going to take a punch 3-step. He's actually going to take a punch 1-step. And so he is trying to get that ball right in that window over the linebacker. We talked about it. 23 doesn't play the seam very well. He's already outside leverage of that tight end. So we knew that we could have a good opportunity to attack in the middle of the field, because the boundary safety, now if the boundary safety was playing on this hash, there's no other receiver over here. But if you ever see this boundary safety playing off the hash, you're going to have a pretty good chance to hit the seam route. And lo and behold, we do. He gets his head around really quick, makes a play. And what I want you to notice, and this is a detail that often gets overlooked with these, is we call it a lock seam. But if he feels capped, what we mean by capped, if he feels this safety kind of capping the space here, what we do is we snap the route when we feel capped. So if you're capped, snap it off. He snaps it slightly. Quarterback throws him open. It's a really good play here, and we score a 63-yard touchdown on a rhythm route and that concept. So that was a big play in the game. Got us the lead. And you can see the quarterback can change his drop based on what he's seeing. So he knew he was going to come open pretty quick there. He did. There's no collision on him, and we put it right on him there for a touchdown. So really like that. If we look at the rest of the concept, he's not wrong if he wants to reset his feet and look at the curl. So you can see here how this develops. So you got the Z. I'm going to run this burst curl. The burst curl, what we're saying is we want to try to get to the hash around 5 yards, then climb to 12, and then kind of curl this thing back in. The Y is going to be in the flat, and it comes open pretty nice here too. So you can see this huge window, 14. I guess he sees the quarterback throws, he kind of aborts his route, but and it's third down, so he may be thinking going to get some pressure here, so let's get in that space early. But you can see how that thing comes open, the curl there. So so here it is. Actually, this is the first Covenant Day game we played that year. So we got the minus splits here. Not bad. I want you to watch not necessarily the read. I think the read is wrong, but we're going to just go through the progression with the quarterback. Catch, punch, got some happy feet, second game of the year. Seam is capped. It looks like the flat with the curl is going to kind of ride that thing in there. If he throws the Y here, if he goes through this progression, you got a square hip angle. Looks like he's going to pick this ball off. You see the Y and the flat wide open. I really like to see him hitch up again and throw the Y for a touchdown. This is a third down play. It's 3rd and 13. We kind of saw the Y come open multiple times, but he bangs it in there, open shoulder, and we get straight up field like perfect drill. Some guys call it noose drill, and get right up field for a first down there. So that's a pretty good one. Good throw there. I just don't like the read. But we make the play anyway. A couple freshmen there making a play in a varsity football game, so not too bad. So here it is. This is another one. So just to go back to this clip, this is at a trip. So we've seen it 2 times at a tight end trips. Now we have a normal like 10 personnel trip set, and then in this one we're even going to run it out of a wing set here. We call this like 11 personnel, or it's kind of like a sniffer. And so now the sniffer's still going to run the seam. We're still going to have the curl by the Z, and it's still going to have the flat. This is another third down play. I think it was the first third down of the game, and first time we ran it live and in color. You can see the seam is capped, and what we do a really good job here is you can see the Z running this route, and this is a big deal too. So if we get in here, we really got to really climb and use our leverage against that corner, because we don't want these guys to kind of push underneath that route. And we don't need a big window for this quarterback, but it certainly helps. So he's going to climb, work to 12, and then the quarterback does a good job of just throwing him open shoulder there. And so he bangs him open shoulder for a big first down in the first quarter. I feel really good about that one. So this is again a set of tight end trips here. So we're gonna run our seam route with the H. So he's got the seam. We're gonna run our curl, and then our flat. Now, and you can pay attention to the route of the Z here. The reason we were so good at this play is because the Z ran a good route. Not all the time did he get the right depth, but you can see he's really trying to work the route. He does a good job foot firing at the top and then getting out of his break. And then what we always teach is keep working back to the quarterback until the ball is thrown. So it just gives a much greater chance of creating separation with that corner. And so you can see there, it just kind of opens up. We catch it for about a 7-yard gain or 5-yard gain there. But a good look there. So here it is at our trips. So the H is here. He's going to have the seam. We're going to have the curl. Again, another big third down. And we're going to have the flat. So seam, we like to think the seam is capped, because at this point, he's not running real hard here, but he's capped. That linebacker's got him capped with a man hip angle. We also have the safety with a square hip angle. So he's looking kind of through this thing. Now he's going to reset his feet. And what he's going to notice is, and I don't really blame him making this decision either way. Obviously, I think he's thinking it's 3rd down and 9. I'm probably going to have to force one in here in a big game. This is our conference championship game against High Point. And so he's thinking, man, we got to get this first down. He steps up and he's just going to rip it in there. And you can see there that he's just going to throw him open again. And a big first down. We end up scoring on the drive to tie the game. So another big play, freshman to freshman there. So big hitch. And then you can see here working the drop. So he's going to catch, punch, drive, cross, set. And then he knows he's capped, so he's going to hitch up, fire it in there, and we're good to go. Big first down. Here we are in the semifinals against Harold's Christian. We knew they like to play a lot of man. I like curl against man. I think it's a good play, especially if you got a guy that can run the curl route really well. So right here we have just a normal trip set. He's going to run the seam. Z's got the curl, and then the Y's in the flat. Z does a really good job of creating separation. The guy actually falls down on the route. We catch it. If we don't bobble it, we may get a few more yards. That's a really good look by Gavin there. He does a really good job. Quarterback, let's check his drop. Always like to check his drop. So he's going to punch 3. So he's going to punch, drive, cross, set. Doesn't like it. That route is capped. I get that. He could snap that off if we wanted to. Let's see if he does. No, he just kind of keeps running into him there. But we kind of go through it. He sees that thing open up in that window, and then we get a nice little play there. Big first down on 2nd and 11. Might as well get the first down on 2nd down. All right, so here we are, a trip set here. Poor quality film there. It's raining. It's like a monsoon all day there. Let's see if we think we get one here. Okay, so we get a good B gap escape. So this is a good example of the quarterback here. Drive cross set, getting pressure, get a B gap escape, and then we just tell our guys to keep continuing with the play there on that. So 13-yard gain on that, but probably going to come open again. Just man coverage. Those guys are playing outside leverage. It's really good against man coverage because you're going to win inside that corner, and then you're going to push inside of them. So using leverage, we'll work a lot of drills for that with our receivers. All right, so one of the things that we like to do is go to a read progression, and this is something that's really good against a poaching safety. So if we get some kind of 3 poach, or this safety is really trying to take this guy away here, number 3 away, or if he's just underneath the hard deck, then we like to attack the space over top of him. I think we ran it twice all year. We hit it once for a big play, and this is it against High Point. So just kind of as we ran curl a few times, we started noticing that this backside safety started creeping up. And we're in tight end trip, so we've run a lot of outside zone and power this way, and it looks like they may be trying to get this guy in the fit somehow on the backside, or maybe he's just cheating it a little bit. So in our game plan, we knew this guy was going to be playing a lot of man. This boundary corner is going to be playing a lot of man on the backside of this concept, and he didn't do so well against in breaking routes. And so we knew that we were probably going to have a chance at this play, especially if that safety crept up like that, and he did. And you can see it's 3rd and 8, and I think we're down a touchdown here in the 3rd quarter, and so let's check the quarterback's drop. Anytime that we go to our read progression, our rhythm route, our rhythm, our progression doesn't change off the rhythm. So he's still going to rhythm the seam, the lock seam. And that does a couple things. One, if he comes open, he can hit him. We've already done that. The second thing, his eyes are going to manipulate the safety. And this safety's inside the hash. He's kind of below the hard deck. And we feel really good with our pretty fast X receiver, not super fast, but a pretty good route runner. And it's a pretty good play for us here. So we're going to catch, drive, cross, set. You can see the quarterback is definitely looking at the H here. That's going to get the eyes of this safety on number 3. Let's watch the route by the X at the bottom of the screen. He's going to stem, look lean, stick opposite, make a move before he can touch him. And whenever we tell our quarterback, whenever this guy's hips are this way, and we're within like maybe a 4-yard window of that safety, we're gonna hitch up and we're gonna fire it. And that's exactly what we do. Get a big play, big touchdown against High Point, and get that game tied up, end up winning that game. So really good play for us. Big play. Everybody's excited. But that just kind of goes to show you that our guys are doing what they're taught to do. Quarterback goes through his progression really well. He knows that guy's, I think he probably thought about throwing it here, but you got this cap safety. I think he's capped there, and so we hitch up, hanging out there. Boom. That's a really good throw. We don't really ever want to throw it too far inside the hash, or maybe at the most 2 yards inside that hash for a post route. Does a good job tracking it, and good play there. So here's another version of it. So against Hickory Grove here, we knew we had man coverage in this game as well. So we thought we were going to get a better look than what we did. One, actually kind of the safety's just kind of roaming around. I think the previous play that we ran, he was kind of hanging out over here. So we're like, let's throw post. He ended up cheating it a little bit. Our quarterback does a really good job of noticing that one is kind of cheating back over to the post side. So again, we're going to be running our seam, our curl, and and then our flat. So our quarterback's pretty savvy. He kind of understands what we're trying to do when we throw that post, and so he kind of aborts that post and goes back to his normal progression, which is good here. Seam gets jammed up. He's capped. He hitches up, and we fire it into our Z that runs a curl route as good as anybody I've seen. And he's got tons of separation and man coverage there. And we get a pretty decent play out of it. So not bad for those guys. The last thing we'll talk about is what we like against man coverage is what we call a release progression, or like a shot play. In the shot play, obviously, instead of doing I'm sure most people have seen this before, but curl instead of the out, we got the wheel or the out and up, and we like to use that a lot. So here it is against Heralds. We hit Heralds earlier in the game with the curl concept on a big play. Now we feel like we have it set up to where now we can run, our burst curl, and then our out and up, and then we still have the seam here. So the progression would still be the same seam, and then what we do is if you get two read routes, you can kind of read them at the same time. And so we'll have the curl and then the wheel. So you can see how it plays out. We don't mind if we get a little bit of a rub here with number one. He's going to burst now. I don't really like him reaching back. He knows what we're trying to do, and we get a pretty good little play there, and they can't really get underneath it. Remember, they've been chasing, all the film that we've been seeing. We've been running it all year, just haven't, ran against anybody else. But a lot of those guys will kind of press this guy and they'll run with him. That's a really hard route to cover, in my opinion, if you're just kind of running with the guy. But you can see here, he's going to try to run, and then he slips, and we get a big play off of a wheel play. So not bad. Get a touchdown out of it. It's another freshman there, Max. He does a pretty good job for us. It was so good we ran it again on him, and just you don't really want to go block the guy. Number one there, he's going to probably take this thing a little bit too steep, and some leagues they may call this, but we hit him again, and it's a really tough play to stop if you're trying to run like a loose man and don't really get anybody jammed up. So that's pretty much it on that. Coach, do you have any questions? If I went over anything or didn't go over anything?
Yeah, I've got a ton of questions.
Okay.
Uh, Number one, I'm an air raid guy. This is you've basically gone R4. Is that correct? Is this what
Yeah.
this is from? The
Yeah.
terminology.
So we never ran this at York, and so when I was going through our intermediate concepts and how to structure, kind of what we needed in an offense, um, we were never really ever good at running curl, and I obviously going through the R4 stuff, and we're members in the R4 system. And so this is kind of Dub's really his basic curl concept that they do. So Dub Maddox, if you guys are unfamiliar, he's written a couple books, and he has an R4 system. And so yeah, this is Dub Maddox curl concept that we use, and we use that platform for anything that we create. So there's other things that we'll do that aren't on his installs, but we use the same platform. So the platform being, rhythm, read, rush, release is kind of how we talk to our quarterbacks in the passing game, and it's really a timing mechanism. So the rhythm routes are, they're routes that don't decelerate. So your posts, your goes, your um, you know quick outs, things like that are, basically they don't always have to be vertical, but they're the ones that you're going to throw in that 1.6 to 1.8 range. Then there you have your decelerating routes like digs and curls and those kind of routes that are going to break open around 2.4 seconds. And then your rush routes can be thrown at any time. So those are your hots, like your shoots or your things from your tight end. So like that's how we've kind of use that platform, and this is just one example of how we do that.
I guess what I'm most impressed with is what it's done to your knowledge level, talking about you personally. So, how do if we want to like dip our toes into this thing, uh, what's the book, the video, what would you suggest if we're not ready to become members, but we want to find out because your knowledge level has exploded, and I'm giving most of the credit to this system.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that the air raid and taught me um, concepts, right? And then I think, and I talk about this with my buddies all the time, coaching buddies, and it's like the air raid is so great from a technical standpoint, like how to teach receivers how to look at the field, look at coverages, and like in my early career, I would always try to marry one concept with one particular coverage. And so you start looking at, okay, mirrored smash, right? For example. Well, I'm not a fan of mirrored smash because, and you can see it in the NFL, and Dub talks about this all the time. It's like, well, mirrored smash, you got some obstacles there, right? So if you're running mirrored smash, well, you kind of have to choose the right side, right? And if the defense is playing a combo coverage or a split field coverage, you're kind of screwed if you pick the wrong side. And so what I would do, and this is just another example, is I would run smash on one side as a quick game, so I can read the corner, let's say, um, in 1.6 seconds, hitch up, and then I have a intermediate on the backside. Um, let's just say it's a corner route, a deeper corner route, like an 8-step corner route, and a shallow route by the X. So the timeline for me to read smash on one side, if it's not there, if I get collisioned, now I can flip my hips and I can make it a full field read because the timing works out to be those routes are coming open by the time I get my hips around to the other side. So that's an example of what I've learned from Dub, and so to get started, I think the best thing you can probably do is read his first book, and I think it's from Headset to Helmet or something like that. His second book, and I may have this wrong because I didn't read the books. I jumped right into the videos. I think the second book is called "What Is Open," and that's mind blowing. I'm just going to give him credit like that. It's insane. It's definitely mind blowing to go through that. And then there's hours and hours and hours of stuff online.
The defensive hip angles, is that where you're getting at? Is from the what is open?
Yeah. So the cap. So if let's just say we're and you do this game planning too, but basically, if I'm reading a rhythm post or a glance, he calls it a glance, like a 5-step post, or even you can even rhythm a 7-step, just and you can change your drop based on it. So let's say we're reading a 7-step post. I'm going to probably take a punch 3-step. So that's going to set my timing for when that route comes open at like 1.8 seconds. So I know a 1.8 second drop should be around, or should be a punch 3. So punch my left, drive, cross, set, and I can get rid of that thing around 1.8. And so let's just say we're reading that. So when do we throw it? What does open mean? If you ask your quarterback what is open, he may not know what to tell you. And I think air raid says grass, right? So that I think is great. I think that's where I learned that from. And I think some quarterbacks like can do that better than others. And I don't really want to get too philosophical here, but some quarterbacks can go out there and they just know what's open intuitively, and you don't have to teach them a whole lot. Like our quarterback right now, he's very good at understanding that concept, and I don't have to like harp on him and teach him the angles and all that stuff, and he just does a really good job. And but he understands the cap, so the cap will be like, we're gonna first base, judge on the, and this is all within 1.8 seconds, right? So you got to judge the the technique of the corner in that play. So if it's an outside route, he's usually going to use um, cushion as a primary weapon. So at the top of the drop, you have to judge the corner. And I guess let's go back to some film and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let's just say we're gonna judge this. Let's say we're gonna judge this, or we're gonna read this corner here on curl, or let's say the seam. Okay, well, so let's look at the seam here. So what are the two players that can cap the seam pre-snap? He knows this linebacker can cap it and that the safety can cap it because it's working into this space. So once he takes his drop, let's just take a look at what we got going on. So he's at the top of the drop now. We know that we're within 4 yards of this defender. So if there was no other defender, he would be wide open because he's within a 4-yard cushion. Okay, he's not being collisioned either. So usually if it's an inside route, their primary weapon on an inside route is probably collision. He doesn't collision at all. He's within 4. Okay. The second defender has a square hip angle. Okay. Maybe slightly what we would call like a zone hip angle. Zone hip angle, his hips would be facing this way. Man, his hips would be facing this way. Square, and then full. So if he's square at the top of the drop, he can only cover space in front of him. he can't cover space horizontal to him at this moment in time. Now, we've graded this guy out on film, and we know that he's not a freak athlete. Now, that's the P in cap is personnel ability. Like if he's a Division One player, we're probably not throwing that route, right? So, but C is collision for inside routes. Generally, our outside receivers is going to be cushion. So collision. Now the A is hip angle. So he's looking at collision, hip angle, and then the final piece is the personnel. So once we graded 23 out in film, how did he do against seam routes? Was he breaking them up? Was he collisioning guys? And the way we do that is when the ball's in the air, is he further away or closer to the receiver enough to make a play on the football? And so this example, he's not good enough to make a play on the football. Like he didn't gain enough ground on that route. So even if this was scout film, I would grade 23 out as a square hip angle, or I would say he's a 4 yard, so he's probably a neutral cushion. So he's at 4 yards. If he was over 4 yards, he'd have a positive cushion. If he was under 4 yards, he'd have a negative cushion. He's got a square hip angle, and his personnel ability right here is a negative in terms of his ability to break on the football, enough to make a play on it. And so he gets a touchdown scored on him, and that's how I would grade that kid out on that particular play. So that's kind of what is open. I don't want to go down a whole window on that, but I think that's important to understand that we can use that language with our quarterback. And so going to the clip where I think it was this clip here. If you look at the cap here, so he's at the top of the drop. Well, this guy is not necessarily collisioning, but he is in a position at this point in time to make a play on this football. We also have a safety with a square hip angle in that area too, and so that's why he came off of that route. So he knew that wasn't open, so he's going to hitch up. Now the next piece of this is now the curl, the guy that's covering the curl, the skiff player. Well, he's got a square hip angle, okay, maybe even slightly outside. I think he probably saw him slightly outside. I mean, you can see here he's probably looking through this thing now. So as he hitches up, he's probably seeing that guy have a what we call a man hip angle, okay, and at this space behind him, he cannot cover simultaneously, and so that's what he's looking at. So we'll come to the sideline, and I'll say, "Man, why'd you throw that football?" Oh, okay, because he's got it coached because he had a man hip angle, and I could throw it in behind him, and that's what he did, right? So he couldn't cover that space, and that's how we're able to throw. I think that kid's able to throw these balls because he understands that. Do we talk about it a lot? I think in game we talk about it more than anything than just on film. But it's a pretty good play by him. Like he understands that guy. He's got his hips facing opposite where that route's breaking, and obviously, we got about 2 or 3 yards worth of space, and we get it completed there.
All right. So does the kid just have a high football IQ? I mean, how long does it take him to understand these hip angles?
I think it depends on the kid. Like you're not gonna take certain kids and be able to do that, right? Like in my experience, this kid is one of the smartest football players I've been around. For instance, if we have certain concepts built in and he gets a certain look in the front, he'll check the protection, right? So like he's at that level and he's only a freshman, so he does a really good job of absorbing that. But yeah, man, he checks protections at the line of scrimmage. If we get certain looks, and then he also can change the progression when he wants to based on the secondary, just
All right.
like he did with the post deal.
Where are you standing at to call your plays? Are you behind? Where are you at?
Yeah, I'm like I'm usually about 15 yards behind,
Behind the defense?
and I have a signaler that's usually right in line with the quarterback, or about 5 yards behind the ball.
So you're trying to be behind the defense?
Yeah, and I think he's probably 5 to 8. Yeah, so he's got to be in vision of this guy, right? So that guy, if you're too close, this guy has a hard time seeing him. We're not super up tempo though, so we're no huddle, but we weren't super up tempo last year because we had a lot of guys going both ways.
All right. How often are you not happy with his drop?
I would say this year I was extremely happy. The only time you'll see an issue with drops is if they get happy feet and they're worried about getting pressure early. So early in the game, if he's getting heat, and that's with all quarterbacks, and I have a really great drop presentation that I did when I was at York, and then another one of our an offensive coordinator at Waccamaw, Dustin Martin. He's taken the York clips because we were together at York. He's at Waccamaw, and he's created an awesome drops video that will be awesome because he goes through the different drops, and he's also got one on gap escapes too. This kid does a really good job. And the only time he gets in trouble is when he gets a little nervous and they start pitter pattering. And that was at York too. And so what we do is we took all of our clips and we said on the clips that we have a clean drop that you were taught to do, like your completion percentage was like way more than when you're like pitter patting around, like trying to figure out what's going on because things are exploding around you, um, so take the drop, take the shot if you have to, and for the most part, he did a pretty good job. So I graded him out really high this year. So you can see here, I mean, this is a big game. Look, man, this is the third quarter. We had just got a pick six to get within a score, and then our defense got us a fumble, and then we went like two plays and we got 1 yard, and the kid steps up and makes a big time throw off this drop. I mean, he steps up in the pocket and rips it. I mean, that's just sometimes you're gonna have kids that can do that, and sometimes you're not. That's just a big play right there. And then we get down there, and the next play we score, I think. So um, it's just a testament to him, but he's going through the process. Now, the way I teach it every day or, pre-practice, what we'll do is I'll go through the concepts that we're going to run in 7-on-7 and team. I'll take those concepts, and what we do is we go echo drill. And so I'll tell him, and there's like 3 or 4 quarterbacks out there, and what they do is they go through their progression, but I make them say the protection because in our offense, our quarterback has to memorize the protections based on the concept. So in this concept, he knows that we're going to go a dual progression, or I'm sorry, a dual protection, where these guys are man and these guys are zone, right? So he has to tell the offensive line what to do before every play, and um, and so I make them say the protection, and then I make them go through their progression by saying, like in this, as he's taking his drop, he'll say lock seam, burst curl, flat, as he's taking his drop. And so that builds that timing in, and it's a super easy drill. Then what I'll do to work gap escapes or work hot routes, then we'll add pressure. So let's say we have like 2 coaches here, and we have the back and the tight end. And so now, if we'll say it's another concept, then we'll do the same thing, but then we'll add in either a gap escape or which will be a release, or hit the rush route in the progression. And so he does a good job. He really does.
Well, it's a heck of a concept, brother, and I'm going to guesstimate that you just sold Dub a bunch of books tonight. So,
Well, and all credit, a lot of credit to him, man. And I don't know Dub personally. I've met him once, but I do know guys that work with him. And to be honest, I swear it's probably accelerated my coaching career by 10 years. I just because just understanding football is just the way that he builds the language in our kids. I feel like our kids are way ahead. And this is nothing to me, but I'm just saying this kid's a freshman, this kid's a freshman, this kid's a freshman, this kid's a freshman. This kid has never played receiver before, um, and this kid's played offensive tackle the year before, right? And he's like 160 pounds. So like they're understanding the game because of the language that we've built in. And yeah, I mean, the language is Dub Maddox's language for sure. So um, I couldn't be happier experiencing that.
well, the only I found a YouTube video where he was doing like a motivational talk one time, and we
Mm.
actually took that video and turned it into our program creed. So, I mean, I know he's an impressive guy, but uh, that's what jumps out is your knowledge level has jumped a whole bunch since I've been around you, and it's I'm assuming most of it is this
It
art.
is. And the big thing, if you're going to go into it, I would read the books, But then if you're going to be a member, have your entire staff like watch it too. Like you all have to be on the same page with the stuff, and it's going to accelerate your staff. But it's a lot of work. I mean, you have to go in there. It's like taking a master's level course. I'm serious now, and I'm not. I don't even know the guy,
Well,
and but it's a master's level course.
that's my last question: is how long did it take you to get completely indoctrinated in this thing?
So I drank the Kool-Aid when I started, when I watched the first video, and he started talking about calling plays. And when he first started, he was like, "Man, you got so much crap you got to think about. Like, what's the head coach thinking? What's the down and distance? What's the weather like? Where are you on the field? What's been working?" And like, there's all this crap going on in your head trying to be a play caller. And then so he started to figure out a system to take like not only that's all the explicit things like what's the defense doing, what are you good at, and then also taking your implicit reasoning, which is like using your gut or whatever, being a good play caller and having talent, and then like merging the two. And so it gives you a framework to how to like look at the defense. So like when I look at the defense, man, I like right now I'm just envisioning the halo, and that's another weird cult R4 term, right? So like I can see the halo, and I see the space the way that my coaches and players do. And so like we're all kind of on the same page, and it's a lot of work, man. I mean, you're going to go through hours and hours and hours of it, and then you got to teach your players that stuff too, because they're not going to sit there and watch the videos. But so like I take the stuff that Dub has done, and then we teach that to our players like he does, and he has modules on how to teach your players. I mean, he does, it's everything. And so, man, I feel like I'm still, I need an R4 hat or something now, so we'll call him up.
You're gonna need a little percentage, a little cut.
A little cut, man. A
You
little
just signed
cut.
up.
They did have an R4 clinic at York one time. We got our quarterbacks got in on, so that was good.
Well, you just signed up 250 coaches, so you need
He's
something.
hey, tell him Jamie Bolton sent you. Because I just bought that dang. Well, thankfully our AD bought the thing for us. So, but man, I'm telling you, it's even if I had to buy it out of pocket, I would. I'd probably pay double.
Well, I can.
Selling it hard now, man. I'm selling it hard now.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't sign up because you're going to be a good coach.
yeah. No, I mean, it's your knowledge level that intrigues me more than anything.
Because you know how bad, how dumb I was.
No, you're always sharp as crap, but you were air raid sharp, and I'm not a big fan of the different drops. I mean, to me, that is you're cluttering up, you're getting too fancy. But your knowledge, uh, you obviously you're seeing the game differently now, and
Well,
that's
and not to drag this out too long, but being like, I felt like I was uncomfortable outside of what our normal offense was a lot. Like if it was like if coaches were to say, "Hey man, we need to do post wheel in the backs," I'm like, "Man, I don't know how, we ain't doing no post wheel," or like something like that, right? So I'm like, "Hey, we ain't doing it." Now. At least we have a platform to where I feel comfortable just experimenting because it's under that umbrella of rhythm, read, rush, release. Like we can build it in, like it makes sense.
Mhm.
And so, and the good thing is too, like there's always continual content being put out. So he's gone through a lot of his concepts and like talked about the how he's gotten to this point with this concept. So it's been awesome, man. But like I would have never ran curl like this probably, and just building the our offense. He doesn't sell an offense. He kind of sells like a way to think about what your offense needs and how you can marry things up from intermediate passes, quicks, run game, uh, protections, screens, all that stuff, and how they just marry together. And so I feel like all of our stuff is pretty tight knit on making sense across the the matrix, if you will.
Okay, you got me sold. I'm gonna buy the book.
No, man, just go ahead and get the membership, man.
I'm not getting a membership. I'm gonna read the book. All right, brother. I sure do appreciate you doing this, man. You did a great job, like always.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. Thank you.
Thank you.